She was 30 seconds away from marrying the man sent to trap her. Stephanie stood at the dress she never chose, staring at the Mafia heir she once loved in Barcelona. She thought their love was real, until she discovered her father had sent him to watch her, control her, and drag her back into a marriage that would seal two criminal empires together. But just before she said "I do," she realized the wedding wasn't a union, it was a setup. Picture this, guys. You are standing at the altar, a dress you absolutely despise, and you're exactly 30 seconds away from marrying the most dangerous guy you have ever met. This is exactly what is happening to Stephanie right now. Her ruthless crime boss of a father literally handpicked this guy to own her entire future. Just a few weeks ago, she thought she successfully escaped all this mafia madness by fleeing to Barcelona. Huge plot twist, she was dead wrong. One single phone call dragged her right back into the underworld. And the guy waiting for her at the end of the aisle, not a coincidence. This is a crazy story about power, ultimate betrayal, and choosing between freedom and toxic love. Stick with me, because you and I are going to unpack this absolute train wreck together. The bridal dress she is wearing actually weighs a literal ton. And honestly, this is not just because there is enough expensive silk and tulle to drown a person in, but because of what it represents. Every single stitch, every shiny pearl shoved into that bodice, and every meter of the massive train dragging behind her feels like a heavy iron chain. She is standing right there in the insanely fancy bright white of her dad's Manhattan mansion, staring at herself in this massive mirror, and she does not even recognize the girl staring back. Her hair is forced up into this super elegant style she absolutely hates, and her makeup makes her look like a completely different person. The crazy part, the dress fits like a glove. They made it because they made it without even asking her measurements. Just suddenly, a voice tells her she looks beautiful, but Stephanie does not even turn around. She already knows exactly who it is. Adriano Valli, her father and the head of the whole crime syndicate, steps into the room and shuts the door tight. The guy is tall, rocking this slicked back silver hair and a custom suit that probably costs more than your entire college tuition. He plays the role of a legitimate, successful businessman flawlessly. But Stephanie knows the dark truth. She has known since she was 12 years old and finally realized how her dad actually makes his dirty money. She coldly tells me not to call her his little girl. Adriano does not even flinch. He just casually walks over, hands stooped into his pockets, and stares right at her reflection in the mirror. He hits her with that classic toxic parent line. Guys, picture this absolute nightmare scenario. Stephanie is literally balling her hands into tight fists, shaking with pure, unfiltered rage. She looks her own flesh and blood directly in the eye and drops the ultimate truth bomb, telling him he does not get to control a life in his because he is nothing but a ruthless criminal. The tension in that room is thick enough to cut with a knife. But Adriano, the big mafia don himself, does not even flinch. He steps right up into her personal space, telling her this arranged marriage to the notoriously dangerous Ruben D. Castro is purely for her own protection. Protection from the exact toxic underworld he dragged her into. Here is a simple life lesson for you. Sometimes the people claiming to protect you are the exact ones you need protection from. Stephanie is practically ready to snap, wanting to rip that bridal veil right off her head and shred the dress to pieces. She fires back that she does not need a single soul to take care of her, but she knows getting angry with a mob boss is completely useless. He just absorbs the rage. So she tries to drop a massive plot twist of her own, telling him
She already met Ruben organically back in Barcelona. But wait for it, guys. The Don just smirks. He already knew he was the one who sent Ruben there to shadow her every single move. Her whole world shatters in that exact second. Which brings up a hard truth and a meaningful life lesson. Just because you think you are calling the shots does not mean someone else is not secretly pulling your strings from the absolute shadows. The betrayal here is on a whole other level. Adriano casually drops that while he sent the guy to be her secret bodyguard, Ruben falling for her was totally unscripted. Stephanie goes completely pale, her voice cracking as she screams that her entire life has been nothing but his sick lies. You can feel the heartbreak when she realizes her perfect romance in Spain was a complete setup. But the mob boss hates her with the coldest logic ever, saying that Ruben actually does care about her, which makes this twisted arrangement absolutely perfect for his empire. And honestly,
here is a life lesson you should always remember. The deepest cuts do not come from your enemies. They come from the people who use your genuine emotions against you to get exactly what they want.
So the Don delivers his final brutal checkmate. He tells her she already loves the guy, so she just needs to put the ring on and make everyone happy. For the first time ever, a cold hatred settles deep in Stephanie's chest like a stone. She vows to never forgive him, and her dad just slowly nods, telling her the wedding starts in exactly 20 minutes before walking right out. Left alone in that suffocating bridal suite, breathing heavy and staring at a stranger in the mirror. Something inside her just breaks.
Running away did not work, so she needs a dark new game plan, a harsh life lesson. But sometimes running only delays the inevitable.
You have to turn around and fight. Let's hit rewind and jump back 3 weeks to Barcelona from where this mess started. Set the scene. 3 weeks ago, Stephanie is living her absolute best life in Barcelona. She is chilling at a sunny cafe near Los Ramblas, sipping a warm cortado and pretending to read while soaking in the pure chaotic energy of the city. After freezing her tears off in Zurich, surrounded by stiff bankers who reminded her way too much of her dad's Mafia cronies, the vibrant noise of Spain felt like pure freedom. She is just a normal 26-year-old girl trying to figure things out. Then her phone buzzes with a highly demanding text from her dad. She just shoves it right back into her bag, refusing to deal with it. And here is your simple life lesson for today. Ignoring a glaring warning sign does not make the danger go away. It just gives it more time to quietly creep up on you. You have to understand how massive this escape actually was. 6 months prior, she ditched New York with nothing but a single suitcase, a secret passport her mobster dad knew nothing about, and a huge stack of cash to stay off the grid. She ghosted everyone, her mom, her little brother, and those giant security guards who used to shadow her every breath. At first, she was jumping at her own shadow. Every random guy on the street looked like a hitman sent to drag her back. But as the months rolled on, she started to believe she was truly free. Which leads us to a meaningful life lesson. False security is the most dangerous trap you can fall into. Because the second you finally drop your guard is the exact moment your dark past decides to catch up and strike. So she finishes her coffee and steps out into that gorgeous afternoon heat, heading to her first legitimate job at a local bookstore. We are talking earning an actual paycheck and dealing with regular customers, and she is absolutely eating it up. But halfway down the street, boom, she gets that freezing prickle right on the back of her neck. You know that horrifying feeling that someone is staring right at you. She stops and frantically scans the crowd of tourists and street artists, but spots nothing out of the ordinary. She writes it off as leftover paranoia, but here is a simple life lesson for you guys. Always trust your gut instincts, because your body senses the predator long before your eyes do. Later that night, she heads out to a loud club to meet her roommate. Listen up, guys, because this is where it gets crazy. Stephanie is hiding out in this grungy, loud club, downing cheap drinks. Way different her fancy New York Mafia life, right? But that is the whole point. Sometimes, the best way to escape your past is to blend into the chaos of the present. While her friend Clara is off dancing with a total stranger, Stephanie is just chilling at the bar. But then, boom, a massive plot twist. She spots this guy near the DJ booth. He is tall, dark hair, looking like he just stepped out of a vintage mob movie. Razor-sharp jawline, and eyes that are scanning the room like a literal hawk. He is definitely not your average guy, and trust me, those eyes do not miss a single thing. So their eyes lock, and Stephanie panics, her heart pounding out of her chest. She tells herself he is just some random guy, but when she peeks back, he is still staring. Then he drops this smile. It is not creepy or flirty. It is a knowing look, like he sees right through her disguise. The lesson here is simple. Always trust your gut instincts. Stephanie bails, shoving out of the club because her mob boss father drilled one rule into her head. Trust absolutely no one. She is practically sprinting for the metro station in the chilly night air when, suddenly, a voice calls out. She whips around, and there he is, the mysterious guy from the club, hands casually in his pockets, looking way too relaxed for a dude who just tracked her down in the dark. The guy tells her to relax with this slack European accent, claiming he is not going to hurt her. Stephanie calls his bluff instantly, asking why he is following her. He tries to play it off, saying they just walk the same way.
The guy actually smiles, admitting he lied just a bit. But she almost laughs. Honestly, the guys.
A simple life lesson.
Owning up to your mistakes. This is to buy her drinks. She offers to walk home.
Because the streets are sketchy. He steps super close in her personal space. Definitely should have said no and walked away right then, but the tension between them is completely off the charts. Guys, listen to me. Stephanie should have literally sprinted in the other direction and this runs with the classic line, if you try anything. I'm screaming loud enough to wake the entire city. He just goes, noted. Ice cold. They walk for blocks into the sketchy part of town, all shuttered stores and graffiti. He asks her name, and she panics, dropping a fake one. Anna, she says. He totally knows she's lying, but lets it slide, introducing himself as Ruben. When she asks where he's from, he hits her with that mysterious here and there. Huge red flag. They reach her busted 5-story apartment with a broken intercom, and she turns around like, this is me. Life lesson here. Folks never let the strange club guy walk you to your actual address. He looks at her beat-up building and says, place. She calls it a dump, but he just shrugs. So Stephanie's studying this total stranger who tracked her out of a club, wondering why he doesn't feel dangerous. She asks straight up why he followed her. Ruben drops the smile. He looks dead serious and tells her it's because she looked like she was running, and he knows exactly how that feels. Stephanie is absolutely stunned. He wishes her good night, calling her Anna, and vanishes into the dark. She stands there frozen before going inside. But plot twist. 2 days later, it isn't a coincidence. He's chilling at her regular cafe, sipping an espresso and doing a crossword puzzle like he owns the place. Life lesson? Coincidences don't exist in the criminal underworld. Stephanie stops dead in her tracks, but he just waves her over like old friends. Against all common sense, she sits down. "You're following me," she tells him flat out. He denies it, saying he comes here every Wednesday. Stephanie drops the hammer. It's Thursday. He doesn't even blink and says he's early. Then he casually mentions he knows she works at the local bookstore. Her stomach absolutely drops. How does he know?
He asked her as people talk. He leans back and swears he isn't a stalker, which is exactly what a stalker would say.
He pushes the menu over and offers a deal. Have coffee, and if he gets weird, she walks. Life lesson? If a guy has an answer for absolutely every single thing, he's playing chess, not checkers. You and I both know she should have walked away right then and called the cops. But nope. She orders a coffee, and just like that, the trap is set. Over the next week, Ruben completely sneaks into her daily routine. They get coffee, stroll through the park, and eat at secret hole-in-the-wall spots. He never pushes, never asks invasive questions, and never tries to make a move. He's just a steady, calm rock. Stephanie's spent her whole life surrounded by shady guys wanting something from her, so she has zero clue how to handle someone who just exists. Sitting on the beach under a half moon, listening to the waves, she finally breaks and asks why he's really here. Life lesson: when a guy acts way too perfect, he's definitely hiding a massive, dangerous secret.
Ruben dodges the question, giving her that classic vague excuse about being between things. As Stephanie isn't buying it, she asks if he's in trouble, and he hits her with defile. Come on, bro.
He sighs, running a hand through his hair, and confesses he made some choices that made certain people very angry. He needed space to figure out his next move. Stephanie calls him out for being incredibly vague, and then asks the million-dollar question, "Are you dangerous?" He looks deep into her eyes and says, "Not to you." She wants to believe so badly, it's terrifying. She whispers that she isn't who he thinks she is. Without missing a beat, he replies, "I know." Life lesson? Never trust a guy who answers a question with another question, especially in the underworld. Her heart totally stops. He tells her straight up that he knows her name isn't Anna, and she's not just some bookstore clerk. But then he drops the ultimate smooth line: he doesn't care. Whatever drama she's running from is her business alone. Stephanie feels all her walls just shatter. She asks why he's being so insanely nice to her, and he simply says, "Because you deserve it." It's such an earnest answer that it completely breaks her. She impulsively kisses him like she's drowning, and he's the only oxygen left. And when he kisses her back so carefully, like she's an absolute treasure, she feels something she hasn't felt in years. She feels safe. Life lesson? The moment you feel totally safe is usually right before the absolute worsted thing imaginable happens. When they pull apart, Ruben rests his forehead against hers and whispers that they should talk about this later. She agrees, and for one fragile moment, everything feels perfect. But we all know how this genre works. 3 days later, her entire world comes crashing down Stephanie. Stephanie's closing up the bookstore when her phone buzzes. She's been dodging her Mafia boss father for weeks, but this is an unknown number, so she picks up. The voice on the other end turns her blood to absolute ice. It's Marco Santini, her father's terrifying right-hand man. No friendly greeting, no warmth at all. He just coldly delivers the fertile order: "Your father wants you home." The life lesson here is simple. You can run to the end of the earth, but toxic family drama will always track you down. Stephanie tries to play tough, telling him she isn't coming back and he can't force her. But Marco just goes dead quiet and drops a nuke. "We have your brother." Her knees literally buckle. She grabs the store counter, accusing him of lying, demanding to hear Luca's voice. A second later, her little brother is on the line, his voice shaking with pure terror. He tells her he's fine, but begs her to just listen to their dad and come home before the line abruptly goes dead. Stephanie is left standing in the empty bookstore, violently shaking. She tries to tell herself this isn't real, but she knows exactly what kind of monster her father is. She grabs her bag and bolts. Life lesson? The Mafia doesn't ask nicely twice. They just go straight for the people you love. An hour later, Ruben finds completely breaking down on the beach, staring into the ocean.
He sits next to her, waiting.
Finally, she chokes out that she has to go back to New York. If she doesn't, her father will destroy her little brother, and she'll carry that guilt forever. Ruben goes super quiet, letting the waves crash before dropping an absolute bombshell.
What if I told you I could help?
Stephanie whips her head around. Ruben calmly explains that he actually knows her father and the dangerous people he works with. He knows their moves, and he promises he can protect her. She's baffled because she barely knows this guy, but he insists she does. Life lesson? When the mysterious guy suddenly reveals his hidden skills, you're already locked into the boss fight. Ruben reaches out, takes her hand, and says she knows him better than anyone, begging her to trust him. She looks at his face, seeing that crazy steady confidence, and whispers, "Okay." Boom. Just like that, she makes the absolute worst decision of her entire life. Fast forward 2 days, and she's landing in New York. Marco and his mob muscle are waiting right at the airport. No small talk, just tossing her into a black SUV and speeding straight to the family estate. Her crime boss father, Adriano, is waiting in his dark, fancy study. He hits her with that creepy welcome home bambina. The chin is so thick you could cut it with a machete. Life lesson? When you willingly walk back into the lion den, don't be surprised when the lion is already waiting for his dinner. Stephanie refuses to sit down and immediately demands to know where Luca is. Adriano casually pours himself a scotch and says the kid is at school. When she screams that Marco said they had him, Adriano smirks. He points out they never said they hurt the kid, just that they had him.
Total Mafia mind games. He promised we'll stay safe as long as she cooperates.
When she asks what he wants, Adriano drops a nuke that shatters her reality. "You're getting married," he says. She laughs bitterly, saying no way, but Adriano is dead serious. In 3 weeks, she's marrying Ruben de Castro to unite their massive criminal organizations. The floor completely drops out from under her. Life lesson? Never play poker with a crime boss, because they literally own the entire deck. Adriano laughs and asks if she honestly thought meeting the heir to a massive European mafia family in Barcelona was a coincidence. Are you kidding me? He admits he sent Ruben there to watch her.
But the whole romance angle, that was all Ruben's idea. Stephanie's brain is completely short-circuiting. She accuses her dad of lying, but he just tells her to ask Ruben tomorrow at dinner.
She snaps, turns, and literally runs for her life, but Marco's goons snatch her up before she even hits the driveway. Cut to the very next evening. Stephanie is forced into a fancy dress, sitting at the family dining table, staring right across at the guy she thought was her savior. And guess what? Ruben looks exactly the same. Life lesson? The Prince Charming is sometimes the biggest villain. We are at the dinner table, and you and I can literally feel the tension. Ruben has the exact same dark eyes and calm vibe, but now Stephanie knows the brutal truth. This guy was never actually hers. She won't even look at him, just staring at her plate, trying not to scream her lungs out. Adriano tries to play matchmaker, telling Ruben to discuss the wedding plans. But Ruben cuts the boss off, saying he wants to speak to her alone. Adriano tried to object, but Ruben uses this terrifying alpha tone that's practically a command. Even the mob boss backs down and gives them 10 minutes. The second the door clicks shut, the silence is deafening. Finally, Ruben looks right at her and drops 5 words. I didn't know. Life lesson? Power speaks loudest when it whispers. Stephanie snaps her head up. Ruben leans in, his voice desperate, swearing. He had absolutely no idea she was the big boss's daughter when they met. He was just hired to watch some random girl. But Stephanie is furious. She hits him with the facts. You like you now, and you're still forcing this marriage. Ruben clenches his jaw and tries the classic, its complicated line. She kicks her chair back, standing up and screaming that he lied, used her, and is marrying her for mob business. Ruben swears it isn't like that at all. So she demands the truth, begging him to make this insane betrayal actually make sense. Ruben slowly stands up to face her, the tension totally explosive. Life lesson, guys. When a mobster says it's complicated, you better prepare for absolute chaos. Look at this, guys. We're jumping right into the ultimate betrayal. Ruben is standing right there, looking at Stephanie with those puppy dog eyes, dropping the classic, I care about you way more than I should line. Seriously, he's literally tearing up Stephanie's hating herself for falling for his Barcelona illusion. She tells him to get out.
Ruben the promise
It hits her. She is utterly trapped by her own blood. Lesson here. Never trust a guy who promised to fix a mess he purposely created just to trap you. The Mafia wedding of the century is exactly 3 weeks away, and Stephanie has 0 escape routes. She spends the entire night staring at her ceiling in a childhood bedroom that got completely scrubbed of her identity, replaced with basic cream walls. By 6 in the morning, she's absolutely losing her mind. She throws on her running gear, trying to ghost her own security detail. She barely clears 3 blocks before a sleek pathetic sedan swoops in like a hawk. The window rolls down, and boom, it's Marco, her father's top enforcer, wearing shades at dawn like an absolute mob boss movie trope.
He tells her to get in. She claims she's just jogging.
But guys, you can't outrun your problems, especially when your problem has a literal double motorcade. Marco completely shuts down her little jogging excuse. She screams that they can't keep her locked up like a prisoner. But let's be real, they absolutely can. She hands, scream, and shatter his windshield just to feel something, anything, like she's still in control. But she spots the heavy iron right under Marco's custom jacket. She knows exactly how this Mafia game is played. So, defeated, she slides into the back seat. Marco drives her back to the gilded cage in total, suffocating silence. Right at the gate, he tries to play the sympathy card, claiming her father is just trying to protect her, that the Don loves her in his own twisted way. Sometimes, the most dangerous people in your life are the ones who claim they're doing it all for your own good. Stephanie just glares at him, asking if her father literally fed him those exact lines. Marco gives this tiny smirk and admits that line was actually all him. She brushes it off, because nice words don't magically unlock her cage. She drags herself back inside the mansion, by every step feeling like she's wearing cement shoes. Inside, it's a scene straight out of a rich family reality show. Fresh fruit, fine coffee, the works. Her mother, Elena, is sitting there looking like an untouchable Mafia queen in silk and pearls. Totally unbothered, Elena tells her to sit down and eat, ignoring the massive emotional wreckage standing right in front of her. Stephanie sits, but she refuses to take a single bite. You can force someone to do the table, but you can't force them to swallow your lies. Ilona pours their coffee with the absolute ice-cold precision of a woman who has survived decades as a mob boss wife. She was born into this brutal mafia underworld, the daughter of a capo, and she wears that dark crown perfectly. Stephanie has spent her entire existence trying to run away from becoming exactly like her. Ilona casually mentions the whole Barcelona situation. Stephanie snaps. She reminds her mother that the Don sent goons to literally drag her back, completely stripping her of her freedom. Ilona doesn't even blink, coldly stating that her father expected her to realize this forced marriage was a smart power play. Look, growing up in a toxic environment might toughen you up, but it also normalizes the absolute worst behavior. Don't let your roots poison your future. Stephanie fires back, demanding to know if this marriage is actually good for her or just a power grab for the Don. Ilona sips her coffee like they're discussing the Weathers praises Ruben as a genius match with clean, legitimate money. This screams that Ruben manipulated and lied to her the entire time in Spain. Ilona casually brushes that off, saying she was practically a teenager when her own arranged mob marriage went down. She claims she learned to love the Don, basically arguing that a mafia empire runs on cold, hard respect, not fairy tale romance. Stephanie isn't having it. She demands a real choice. But her mother hits her with the ultimate reality check. You get one shot at running in this family. Sometimes the choices we don't make end up making us. Elena's voice is silky smooth, but you can hear the absolute steel underneath it. She reminds Stephanie that running away completely backfired. Stephanie jumps up, the chair scraping loud against the floor, swearing she can't go through with this mob wedding. Ilona hits her with the cold truth. She tells her daughter she's way too soft, still carrying around this naive idea that the universe actually owes her a fair deal. Ilona smooths her expensive silk top and basically says, "You'll learn to be ruthless, just like I did." Stephanie bolts from the room before she breaks down. By the afternoon, the mansion is jacked by high-end event planners, turning the ballroom into a staging ground. It's a reminder that the prettiest parties usually hide the darkest, most miserable realities. The house is suddenly drowning in floral arrangements, exclusive seating charts, and non-stop of menu tastings. Stephanie's being paraded around like a literal prop in her own life. Stand here, fake a smile, pick between two identical shades of painfully boring white. She's absolutely dead inside, just sleepwalking through the nightmare. Enter Diane, this hardcore wedding planner, with a Bluetooth headset and zero emotional intelligence, who has the nerve to ask for her input on the centerpieces. Stephanie tells her to do whatever. Diane tries to play the special day card. Stephanie almost bursts out laughing at the insane irony. She's straight at her mob boss father making deals in the corner. She knows she's just an expensive hood ornament for his brand new alliance. Diane completely freezes, having absolutely no idea how to handle that level of dark reality, and just awkwardly compliments the roses. That night, Stephanie locks herself in her pristine room, her brain running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. There has to be a blind spot here, a glitch in the Don's matrix. Growing up in a mafia family teaches you one thing. You always look for the weakness. She starts mentally mapping the board to the father, Ruben, the massive syndicate, the enforcers, and then it hits her, Luca. Her chest completely caves in. Her teenage brother is the entire reason she got dragged back into this underworld. If she ghosts them again, Her dad'll absolutely ruin Luca's life to punish her. It teaches you a brutal lesson. The ones we love the most are always our biggest vulnerabilities. But what if she could smuggle Luca out before the hammer drops? She grabs her phone and fires off a secure text, begging to meet up solo. Luca replies instantly, saying the Don locked with a heavy security detail, so she did come onto his turf. They lock in a time for the very next afternoon. Stephanie drops the phone and finally takes a real breath. It's a massive long shot, but guys, you have to play the hand you're dealt. The next day, she somehow talks Marco into driving her straight to Luca's fancy Manhattan prep school. Marco doesn't even ask questions, just plays the silent driver role. Luca is waiting by the main building, backpack on, looking way too innocent for a mob family. He spots her, and his face totally lights up. She grabs him for a massive hug, holding on tight. Luca is practically in shock, saying he really thought she would bail on him. She pulls back, taking a good look at her little brother. He has his messy hair and that classic crooked smile, but she sees the stress weighing him down. She asks if he's doing all right, and he gives the standard fake yes. He spots Marco hovering nearby like a shadow and asks if they can walk. They head into a freezing Manhattan park, with Marco trailing them like a loyal watchdog. The air is absolutely biting, the kind of cold that cuts right through your bones. Stephanie is racking her brain trying to figure out how to break the master plan, but Luca completely cuts her off. He stops us dead in his tracks and apologizes for being the bait that trapped her. Owning your mistakes is tough, but it's the first step to growing up. Luca is completely agonizing over it, explaining that their dad swore she was in real danger out in Barcelona. He kicks the dirt, devastated that he fell for the Don's massive lie. But Steph looks him dead in the eyes and drops a heavy truth bomb. The Don wasn't lying about the danger, he just lied about what kind of danger it was. Luca looks absolutely lost, so she breaks this down for him. That dream guy she fell for in Spain, Ruben was literally on the family payroll, sent to spy on her, and when she actually caught feelings, their dad instantly weaponized the romance. It's an insane plot twist. The Don turned his own daughter's search for freedom into a massive corporate merger. It goes to show, you always have to look behind the curtain of a perfect story. After a massive, heavy silence, Luca asks the million-dollar question. Does she actually love Ruben? Stephanie is completely wrecked by the question. She rubs her tired eyes, admitting she thought she did. But how can you truly love a guy who was playing a role from day one? Luca asks if Ruben knew about the master plan. He claimed ignorance, but trust is completely shattered at this point. Luca grabs her hand and tells her to walk away from the wedding, but she can't. If she runs, the Don will literally destroy Luca to drag her back. She's choosing to stay trapped in a fake marriage just to keep her brother safe. Luca shakes his head, totally disgusted, telling her it's absolute garbage. Real love is about sacrifice, guys. But you should never have to sacrifice your entire soul for it.
She tells him to watch his mouth, but Luca isn't backing down. He looks her in the and tells her stop playing the martyr, but she escaped the family when she was his exact age.
He's ready to endure the heat if it means she gets her freedom back. Stephanie is holding back serious tears. Her brother's growing up way too fast. He squeezes her hand, giving her permission to burn the wedding down and run. She desperately wants to take the out, but she knows how ruthless their father can be. She promises to think about it, and they just sit there, watching the freezing park slowly empty out. Finally, Marco steps out of the shadows, clearing his throat, signaling playtime's over. Even in your darkest moments, A sibling's loyalty can be your greatest shield.
Guys, picture this absolute madness. And Stefani is on her feet, and little Luca is standing right there beside her. He looks at her and says, "Hey, whatever you decide, I am totally on your side."
She gives the kid a massive hug, telling him she loves him. Then, boom, smash cut to Marco driving her back to the mob estate in total, suffocating silence. She asks him flat out, "If I asked you to help me escape, would you?"
Marco is a brick wall. No. Why? Because the Don pays him to keep her safe, and running is a major hazard. Stefani drops the mic safes for who? Me or him?
Marco just shuts down. She walks into that mansion feeling like a total prisoner. The life lesson here? Sometimes the walls built to protect you are the exact same ones keeping you trapped. Always question who your safety actually benefits. So, later that evening, Ruben decides to just crash the party. He does not even wait for an invite. He waltzes right past the ice tree, like he's onto the entire Mafia compound, and tracks Stefani down in the library. She is curled up, trying to read some book just to avoid reality. She hears his footsteps, looks up, and her stomach absolutely plummets. She demands to know why he is there. Ruben shuts the door, saying they have to talk. She tells him to step off, but this guy just casually parks himself on the arm of her urge. He knows he thinks he's a total snake who lied to her, but he begs for just 5 minutes to explain. She finally folds. 5 minutes. Here is a quick life lesson for you all. When someone stomps all over your boundaries, giving them an inch usually means they will take a mile. Listen to this insane plot twist, guys. Ruben leans in and drops a massive truth bomb. When her father first pitched it, this arranged mob marriage, Ruben actually rejected it. He told them he did not need a fake wedding for power. But then the Don showed him Stephanie's pecs picture and said she was trying to escape the underworld. Ruben thought, maybe he could swoop in and help her out. He swears he was not faking his feelings in Barcelona. He originally planned to keep his distance and just be her shadow, but then they actually met. He runs his hand through his hair, totally stressed, and admits she was not what he expected at all. Real life lesson right here. You can plan every single move like a chess master, but human connection will always throw a total curveball that wrecks your perfect strategy. Stefani asks what he actually expected to find. Ruben smirks and says he pictured a spoiled Mafia princess, someone shallow like the mob wives he grew up around. Instead, he found her reading classic literature in a dusty cafe, working retail, trying to just be regular. She snaps that she is normal, but Ruben drops the charm, calling her extraordinary. She throws up her shields and tells him to stop faking it. But here is the absolute kicker. Ruben admits he does care, but he still has to marry her. Why? Because if he backs out, his ruthless family will cut him off and he loses his entire empire. She realizes it is all about the cash. Lesson time, everybody. Never let a few smooth compliments distract you from someone's true motives. Always watch what they do, not just what they say. Ruben starts pacing like a caged tiger. He claims it is not about money. It is about raw survival. He has been groomed to run the syndicate since he was 10. If he walks away, his shady cousin steals his throne, Stefani shoots back.
So you cannot that happen. He stops dead, insisting that wanting his crown does not mean he does not want her too.
He almost slips and admits he cares way too much. Stefani marches right up to him and lays down the absolute law. She tells him that caring means absolutely nothing when he is willing to hold her hostage in a fake marriage just to secure his inheritance. The life lesson here is super clear, guys. Someone can claim they care about you all day long, but if their personal ambition cost you your own freedom, you need to run the other way. Ruben swears it is not just about the inheritance. Stefani demands the truth, telling him to make her understand why she should trust him. For the first time, this untouchable boss looks completely lost. He whispers that he does not know how. She is done and turns to walk out, but he catches her wrist. He refuses to let go. He admits he's messed up big time. He was terrified to reveal his real identity in Barcelona because he knew she would bolt and he was not ready to lose her. She hits him with pure ice, saying he never actually had her. Ruben just pulls her slightly closer. Here is a solid reality check. Building any relationship on a massive secret is exactly like building a house on quicksand. It is guaranteed to eventually sink right out from under you. Ruben looks her in the eye and says those 2 weeks in Barcelona were absolutely real. He does not care what her twisted father says. What they had was genuine. Stefani can barely breathe. She accuses him of lying and challenges him to prove it. Ruben searches her eyes, then slowly lets go of her wrist and steps back. He admits he cannot prove it right now in a way she would believe, but he begs her to give him a real chance after the wedding. If she refuses, they are going to spend the rest of their lives completely hating each other. Tears start stinging Stefani's eyes. Here is a brutal life lesson, guys. Words are incredibly cheap when trust is already broken. Only consistent time and action can ever hope to actually repair that kind of massive damage. Stefani hates him in this moment. She hates him because he is making her feel things when she is trying so hard to just be emotionally numb. She tells him to get out. Ruben just nods, apologizes for everything, and walks away. Stefani is left alone in the library, shaking, realizing she is in way over her head. After that, the days just blur into a nightmare. Dress fittings, wedding planners, endless calls from fake relatives. She plasters on a smile and plays the perfect mob daughter, but inside, she is completely unraveling. Then, one night, she sneaks into her father's private study.
Listen up, everyone. Faking your emotions just to keep the peace is the fastest way to lose your own identity. Eventually,
that perfect mask you are wearing is going to crack wide open. Growing up, this room was off limits. It was the Dawn Sanctuary. Now she is alone in the belly of the beast. She rips open drawers, scanning through secret ledgers in mob code. Suddenly, she hits the jackpot. A file marked the Dick Castro Alliance. Her hands shake as she opens it. Inside are massive contracts covering money laundering, arms deals, and right at the bottom, her wedding contract. Both crime bosses have already signed it. Then, she flips the page and her blood runs cold. She finds a hidden clause stating that if the wedding is cancelled, the entire criminal partnership is terminated. Here is a crucial life lesson. Always read the fine print. The details people will actively try to keep in the dark are exactly the ones that have the power to ruin your entire life. We are talking millions of dirty dollars and massive underworld infrastructure just gone. It gets worse. A secondary agreement outline lethal retribution if either family backs out. They would target immediate family members. Her stomach churns. This is literal survival. Her father gambled his entire Mafia empire on her walking down that aisle. Suddenly, she hears heavy footsteps in the hallway. Stefani frantically shoves the folder back, shuts the drawer, and slips out just as Marco rounds the corner. He eyes her suspiciously and asks if she is okay. She lies, claiming she could not sleep. Marco just nods and tells her to get some rest. Listen closely, guys. The absolute heaviest burdens in life are usually the ones selfish people force onto your shoulders without ever asking for your permission. Marco tells her tomorrow is a big day. Stefan knows exactly what he means. The nightmare is becoming real. The final fitting goes down in an exclusive Soho boutique, totally shut down to the public. Stefani stands in front of massive mirrors while seamstresses swarm her. Her mother, Elena, lounges on a velvet couch, sipping champagne, totally unbothered. She says the dress looks regal, but Stefani stays dead silent. Then Elena casually mentions she cried her entire wedding morning so much her makeup was redone 3 times. Stefani asks why she was crying. Elena flatly replies she was absolutely terrified. The lesson here is chilling. Just because a dark family tradition is wrapped in white silk and expensive champagne does not mean it isn't just toxic trauma being passed down. Elena claims she walked down the aisle anyway and life turned out fine. Stefani locks eyes with her and fires back. Did it really? Elena's face turns to stone. Stefani unloads, pointing out Elena spent 30 years married to a boss who lies, hurts people, and uses his own kids as bargaining chips. She asks if that is actually okay. The room goes dead quiet. Elena orders Stefani into a secluded back hallway. She aggressively corners her daughter, asking if Stefani thinks she has been blind to behusmonster personas all these years. Stefani looks right at her and calls her straight up complicit. Bam! Elena slaps her so fast she does not even see it coming. Here is the lesson. Forcing someone to face their own deep denial usually earns you their absolute worst wrath. The slap echoes like a gunshot. Stefani's cheek is burning. Her mother gets right in her face and hisses at her not to judge her. Elena goes off, claiming Stefani has zero idea what she has sacrificed to keep this twisted family together. She justifies everything by saying she did what needed to be done by letting the Don use her as a pawn. Elena's eyes are ice cold. She asks Stefani if she thinks she is the first woman in this bloodline to be sold off. She tells her she is not special, just the next in line. She dares Stefani to go away the wedding and doom her brother Luca, ruin the empire, and destroy everyone who relies on this alliance. The life lesson is harsh. Misery loves company, and toxic families will always use heavy guilt to keep you chained to their dark traditions. Elena drops the ultimate guilt trip, saying she raised her better. Stefani chokes out that she hates her. Elena shrugs it off, saying she will get over it, and walks away. Stefani is left shaking, totally consumed by rage and grief. But that very night, our girl makes a major decision. She realizes she cannot run away or openly defy her mob boss dad. She cannot burn the empire down without putting a target on her little brother's back. But she can fight back from the shadows. She sneaks right back into the forbidden and studies and goes straight for his encrypted computer. She has spent her whole life memorizing his habits. She punches in his birthday as the password, but boom, access denied. Lesson time, guys. When the front door is heavily locked, you never give up. You just find a smarter way in. So check this out, her mother's birthday, wrong password. But then, on a total hunch, she types in Luca's birthday and boom, the system unlocks. Stephanie takes a massive breath and starts digging through the digital dirt. We are talking hidden emails, dirty transaction records, the whole mobster treasure trove. Hidden in some boring security folder, she finds a file called Wedding Day Contingency. She opens it and her blood literally freezes. It is a full-blown hit list. Right at the top, a bold order to eliminate the De Castro heir if the alliance goes sour. Her dad was not just securing a Mafia merger, he was plotting to flat out ice Ruben. It just goes to show you that the people smiling at your wedding might be the ones planning your funeral. You and I have to look closely at this. Because the paranoia is wild. She keeps scrolling, and this guy has a hit plan for literally everything. If Ruben renegotiates, if he backs his own family, or if he tries to dump her, Her dad planned for every single angle except one massive blind spot. What if his own daughter flips and warns the guy? Stephanie sits back, totally mind-blown. She spent weeks despising Ruben, treating him like a sketchy pawn in this Mafia chess game. But now, he is a sitting duck. If she does nothing, her dad is going to wipe him off the map the second as he outlives his usefulness. Sometimes you have to step up and protect the people you thought were your enemies. She grabs her phone, texting him to meet her alone tonight. He replies instantly. The old marina, Pier 9, midnight. She replies she will be there, deletes the digital trail, and ghosts out of that city like a ninja. For the first time, our girl finally, Giglia, feels like she is holding the steering wheel. But crossing her mob boss dad is a total point of no return. Fast forward to the marina, and the vibe is straight out of a movie. Smells like rust and ocean water, dead quiet except for the waves. She posts up at the end of Pier 9, hiding her shaking hands in her pockets. 10 minutes later, Ruben rolls out of the pitch black shadows looking like an absolute boss. You came, she asks. You asked. He fires back. The tension between them is thick enough to slice with a knife. He demands to know why they are meeting in the middle of nowhere. Listen, facing your fears head-on is the only way to take your power back. She breathes in. She drops the absolute bomb on him, saying she dug into her father's secret files. Instantly, Ruben goes on high alert. He wants to know exactly what kind of dirt she found. She looks him deady in the eye and tells him straight up. If this little arranged marriage does not go perfectly, her dad is going to flat out murder him. Ruben freezes like a statue. He asks if she is totally sure, and she confirms she saw the hit lists, the dates, the brutal methods. He has been plotting this betrayal since day one. Ruben just runs a hand through his hair, totally stressed. He knew her dad was a shark, but a full-on assassination to wild. He asks the million-dollar question, why is she risking her life to warn him? Well, honesty is the foundation of any real bond, guys. She admits it, he was right about Barcelona. What they had back then was 100% real. She steps up into his personal space, dropping her guard, and tells him she simply cannot let her father take him out. Ruben stares back, looking completely shell-shocked and vulnerable. She gets straight to business. She needs his help to blow this fake wedding to pieces, but she is trapped. If she runs away, her brother Luca takes the fall. If she fights back openly, both our mafias go down in flames. But if they team up, they just might survive. Sometimes asking for help is the bravest thing you can possibly do. Ruben does not even hesitate. He grabs her hand and says he is fully locked in. Whatever she needs, he is her guy. The relief hitting Stephanie is insane, but the hype train does not stop there. She tells him there is one more crazy detail. She whips out her phone and shoves the actual digital hit list right in his face. Ruben scans that massive hit list, and his face turns to absolute stone. The crazy part? Her father is not the only mob boss calling the shots. Ruben realizes his own family is completely wrapped up in this shady conspiracy too. His jaw clenches. This fake wedding was never about peace. It is purely about gaining ultimate control. These bosses are just using their kids as disposable pawns to kick off a massive gang war. But true strength comes from refusing to let others write your story.
Stephanie looks him dead in the eyes, and they burn the whole empire down. Ruben gets to totally unchanged, dangerous He asks when they kick this off, and she says right now. Just like that, the real vendetta begins, and they bounce from the marina in separate directions.
Ruben vanishes into the dark like an absolute phantom. Our girl waits 15 minutes before walking back to her getaway car. Her driver, Marco, stays completely silent. But as they pull up to her heavily guarded Mafia estate, she drops a heavy question. She asks if Marco would look the other way for just one single night. Marco stares straight ahead and casually says it depends on which night. When she drops the word wedding, his grip on the wheel turns his knuckles white. That is a massive ask, and her dad would execute him in a heartbeat. But true loyalty is about protecting the person, not just following the boss's orders. Marco finally turns, looks her up and down, and realizes she is about to pull off the craziest stunt of her life. She does not need his help. She just needs him to stay out of her way. She stares right into his soul. Marco stares at her, the silence stretching out until he finally lets out a massive sigh. He tells her straight up that he did not see her leave the marina, and he definitely did not see her come back. If anything crazy goes down at the wedding, he will just claim he was distracted. Guys, knowing when to bend the rules for a good cause is an absolute survival skill. Stephanie is practically back tears of relief, but Marco warns her not to celebrate yet. If this insane plan fails, they are both getting sent to the graveyard. She steps out of the car, her brain already locked onto the next move. Over the next 72 hours, she puts on an absolute masterclass in faking it. She plays the flawless, obedient Mafia bride. She is smiling through dress fittings, nodding at seating charts, and taking all of her mother's clueless advice. She acts perfectly compliant, playing the exact little puppet her ruthless dad expects her to be. But behind the scenes, she is plotting the ultimate revenge coup. Sometimes the smartest move is letting your enemies think they are winning. She links up with Ruben 2 more times in absolute secrecy. First, in a packed Brooklyn coffee shop where blending in is easy. Next, in a shady Queen Anne's hotel room he books with straight cash. Every meeting, they sharpen the knife on this revenge plot. Ruben is pacing the hotel room in his designer suit, looking totally stressed. He tells her they absolutely need hard evidence to force these Mafia families to back off. No rumors, just undeniable proof. As Stephanie sits on the edge of the mattress with her laptop glowing, she looks right at him and drops the hammer. She already has the files. Stick with me here, because this heist is getting intense. The files are locked behind heavy encryption, and she cannot bypass it from the house. The main server is at her dad's downtown corporate fortress, guarded 24/7. Ruben stops pacing and asks the golden question, can she sneak him inside? She figures she can fake an excuse about needing wedding documents, but they will literally only have 5 minutes before security swarms them. Ruben smirks and says 5 minutes is plenty. Once they plug in, they are ripping every single dirty contract and hit plan from the last 10 years. Ruben's voice goes ice cold. They are going to leak all of it to the feds and the media. Stephanie's stomach does a total flip, because doing the right thing often means burning your own world to the ground. Her dad will absolutely know she betrayed him. Ruben sits next to her and drops a harsh reality check. His dad will know too. If they pull this trigger, it is a one-way ticket. They will be entirely cut off from the mob money, totally disowned, and hunted down like animals. He asks if she is truly ready for that chaos. Stephanie just stares at this guy, the same dude who lied to her in Barcelona, but somehow ended up being her only real lifeline in this Mafia nightmare. She flips the question back on him. Is he ready? Ruben gently pushes a stray piece of hair behind her ear, and that soft touch almost shatters her tough exterior. He confesses he has spent his whole life being the perfect, obedient Mafia prince. A life lived only for others is not a life at all, guys. He gives her a subtle smile and admits it is finally time he made his own choices, even if it costs him his entire empire. Hearing that pushes her over the edge, and Stephanie just kisses him.
It's desperate and probably the most dangerous move she could make, but she does not care.
She kisses him like the apocalypse is happening, which, honestly, in their Mafia world, it kind of is. When they finally catch their breath, Ruben rests his forehead on hers and swears they are going to survive this mess. Total lie. They both know they are walking into a death trap, but sometimes a beautiful lie is the exact armor you need to keep fighting. Fast forward to just 3 days before the fake wedding. Stephanie rolls up to her dad's downtown office. She used the classic excuse of needing to double-check the prenuptial agreement. Totally normal bride stuff. But waiting inside is Adriano, sitting behind his giant mahogany desk, looking like an untouchable mob king. Her dad acts all surprised to see her. She confidently sits down, crossing her legs, and tells him she just wants to be totally clear on the terms before she free signs her life away. Adriano flashes this arrogant smile and says he raised a smart girl. He slides the massive folder across the desk. Stephanie puts on an Oscar-winning performance, pretending to read the legal jargon while totally ignoring the words. True focus is about waiting for the perfect opening to strike her. She is literally just counting the seconds. Right on cue, Adriano's phone starts buzzing. He frowns at the screen, stands up, and says he needs to take the call for 5 minutes. The absolute second the door clicks shut behind him, she strikes. She sprints over to his boss chair, whips out a hidden USB drive, and slams it into the computer tower. Boom, password screen. Her hands are trembling as she speed types Luca's birthday into the prompt. Access granted. She dives into the restricted files and hits download on the whole server. We are talking hit plans, billion-dollar contracts, dirty money trails, all of it. The progress bar starts crawling. 10%, 20%. She is sweating bullets. 40%. Then she hears his footsteps out in the hallway. 60%. Keeping your cool under massive pressure is the only way to survive the jungle. The doorknob actually starts turning at 80%. Adriano walks right back in, as Stephanie aggressively yanks the flash drive out and stuffs it in her pocket. Her heart is beating so loud it feels like a drum. He casually asks if she found what she needed. She slowly stands up, acting totally unbothered, and says she is ready to sign. He just stares at her. Adriano flashed this cold, calculated smile. I am proud of you, Bambina. You are doing the right thing, he told her. Stephanie just smiled right back, playing her part perfectly. I know, she said, but the second she hit the street, she finally exhaled. She pulled out her phone and fired a text to Ruben. His reply hit instantly. Good. Now we wait. You and I know how this goes. Guys, sometimes the biggest lies are told with a warm smile. By Friday, the estate was absolute chaos. Security, florists, white roses everywhere. It looked like a fairy tale. But fairy tales in the Mafia always end in blood. Stephanie just stood there in her bedroom, staring at that ridiculous white wedding dress hanging on the door. To her, it did not look like a bridal gown at all. It looked like a straight-up coffin. Then came a knock. Luca walked in, looking like he had aged 10 years in a single week. You do not have to do this, he told her, sitting on the edge of the bed. She just grabbed his hand. Whatever happens tomorrow, stay out of it, she warned him. Life teaches you this the hard way. Sometimes protecting the people you care about means shutting them out completely. Luca just stared at her, totally clueless. You are planning something, his eyes searching hers, but he finally nodded and promised to stay out of the crossfire. I love you, kid, she told him, hugging him tight. Once he was gone, Stephanie locked the door, cracked open her laptop, and started digging through her dad's stolen files. Hours passed. The sun went down, and the house went totally dead quiet. Then, hidden in a deep subfolder, she found it. A secret chat between her dad and some guy named Vay Constantine. You see, the devil is always hiding in the fine print. The message was brutal. The wedding was just a setup to steal everything. The messages kept getting worse and worse. This Constantine guy laid it all out, eliminate the heir Reuben, and make it look like a tragic accident to destabilize his family. And what about Stephanie? Her own dad wrote that she was just a mean to an end, and once she served her purpose, she would be contained. Her vision went totally blurry. The lesson of the day, guys, is that greed will absolutely blind a person to their own flesh and blood. Her father never cared about her future. He was plotting to ice her new husband and lock her in a cage to steal a massive fortune. Absolute betrayal. This entire wedding was nothing but a massive, deadly trap to wipe out the Dick Castro family from the inside out, using Stephanie as the bait. Her hands were literally shaking as she forwarded every single receipt to a secure email Reuben set up. She thought she knew how ruthless her old man was, but this was next-level evil. Then her phone buzzed. Reuben texted, "I saw the files. We need to move up the timeline. Tomorrow during ceremony. Guys, here is a harsh truth. When someone shows you their true colors, hit back twice as hard, but a hit right at the altar that is completely and utterly insane." Reuben's text was dead serious. "Once you are legally bound to me, your father will move fast. We have to hit him first." Stephanie's mind was racing a mile a minute. Pulling off a move like this in front of 300 armed Mafia guests. Absolute madness. "Meet me at the church. 7 in the morning. Alone," he told her. She stared out her window into the pitch black night. Here is something to remember. The best time to strike is when your enemy thinks they have already won. Her dad was sleeping like a baby, but she was going to burn his empire down. She skipped sleep, threw on a hoodie, and bolted at dawn. The massive wooden doors of the church were unlocked, and the place was totally empty. She found Reuben sitting in the front pew, dressed in all black, looking like a total boss with a duffel bag at his feet. "You came," he said. She just smirked. "You thought I would not?" He pulled out this little black device from the bag, a signal jammer. Once he flipped that switch, nobody within a half-mile was getting a call-out for back. It just goes to show always control the battlefield before the actual fight even starts. No signal means no reinforcements for her dear old dad. Then he handed her a flash drive. "This drive has everything," Reuben told her. "The contingency plans, the secret Constantine messages, all of it." Stephanie was confused. How were they supposed to expose him? Reuben revealed he had hacked the wedding live stream. At his signal, all the dirty laundry would broadcast to the whole internet. She realized he had this planned since day one. "Why did you not tell me?" she asked. He admitted he needed her to act clueless to sell the con. A quick reality check for you. Sometimes keeping a massive secret from your partner is the absolute only way to keep him alive. He did not trust himself to risk her. "I have spent my whole life playing it safe," Reuben said softly. "This is the first time I have ever bet everything on someone else." Stephanie looked down at the tiny flash drive in her hand. If they pulled this trigger, the blowback would be absolute chaos. People were going to drop, but Reuben looked her dead in the eye. He said he would rather die completely free than live like a caged animal. Take note of that lesson, guys. Real freedom always comes with a heavy price tag. Regrip the drive. "Okay, let's do it." The rest of the morning was a total blur of Fake My Smile's hair and makeup back at the estate. By 5:30, the heavy hitters started rolling in. Black luxury cars stacked up the driveway, dropping off mob bosses in custom suits and their wives covered in diamonds. Two rival empires, all gathered to watch a fake peace treaty. Little did they know they had front row seats to a total demolition. At 5:50, Stephanie stared in the mirror. She looked like a perfect porcelain doll, but underneath that massive white dress, she had the flash drive securely taped to her thigh. Just remember, appearances are the ultimate weapon in this world. Knocked on her door. It was time to face the music. Marco stared at her, his face totally unreadable. "You sure about this?" he asked. "No," she replied. Marco just nodded. "Good, that means you are thinking clearly." They took the long walk to the car, and during that 15-minute ride, Stephanie played the whole insane plan over and over in her head. The signal jammer would go live, the officiant would ask for objections, and boom, the truth comes out. Here is a piece of wisdom for you. Bravery is not the absence of fear. It is taking action while your knees are shaking. The car pulled up. The valet opened the door, and her dress hit the pavement. Game time. The inside of that sanctuary was packed to the absolute brim. 300 ruthless mobsters all crammed into one room. She spotted her dad up front, looking way too smug. Her mom was already crying into a handkerchief, but up at the altar, rocking a perfectly tailored tuxedo, was Reuben. They locked eyes across the room, and he gave her one single nod. The dramatic organ music, still lasting, honestly, a terrible song choice for what was about to go down. It proves my point, never get too comfortable when everything seems perfect. She took Marco's arm, feeling the eyes of every single guest locked onto her. Halfway down the aisle, she felt it. A quick buzz against her leg from her hidden phone. The signal jammer was officially online. Nobody was calling for backup now. She made it to the altar, and Reuben grabbed her shaking hand. His grip was solid rock. The officiant started droning on with his boring speech about love and unity, but Stephanie totally tuned him out. She was laser-focused on the balcony cameras. Finally, the guy said the magic words, "Speak now or forever hold your peace." Listen closely, guys. Timing in life is absolutely everything. Reuben squeezed her hand. It was the moment of truth. Stephanie reached down to grab the flash drive taped to her thigh, and her blood ran totally cold. It was not there. Panic hit her like a runaway freight train. She had double-checked that tape before leaving. Then a chilling voice echoed from behind her. Looking for this? She spun around. Her dad was standing right there in the aisle, dangling the drive like it was a piece of trash. "Did you really think I would not track every move you make?" He smirked. "I am disappointed, Bambina. Here is your brutal life lesson. Never underestimate the guy who taught you how to play the game." Marco stood by, stone cold. Look at this absolute betrayal, guys. The big boss, Adriano, drops the ultimate truth bomb on Stephanie. Marco, her supposedly loyal bodyguard, has been a rat this entire time. Every secret meeting, every single rebellious scheme, Marco snitched on all of it. Stephanie is completely paralyzed, while Marco stands there like a brick wall, dropping the coldest excuse ever, claiming he is just protecting her from herself. Reuben tries to act tough, stepping up to say the fight is not over, but Adriano just laughs. The Don whips out the stolen flash drive, proving he knew about their little live stream hack days. The life lesson here? Never assume you are the smartest person in the room, especially when that room belongs to a mafia boss. Adriano just played these kids like a cheap violin. Adriano is going full villain mode now, flexing that he holds all the cards. He tells Ruben he has enough blackmail material to ruin everyone in the room. Ruben is seething, but what can he do? Absolutely nothing. The Don then spins around, puts on his best fake smile, and tells the wedding guests to ignore the drama. He casually strolls up to Stephanie, and the mask slips. With pure fury in his eyes, he whispers the most chilling threat. He tells her she is going to marry Ruben, she is going to smile for the cameras, and she is going to regret this stunt for the rest of her miserable life. She spits out that she hates him, and this absolute savage just says, "I know." Pro tip for life, folks. If someone tells you exactly how they are going to ruin your life, believe them. The poor wedding officiant is sweating bullets, shaking like a leaf as Adriano barks at him to continue the vows. Stephanie is completely zoned out, total system failure. She is standing at the altar, holding Ruben's hand, but she is emotionally flatlining. Every single massive plot they cooked up to take down the Mafia empire just went up in smoke. The best man awkwardly slides the rings over, and the officiant stammers through the big question. Ruben actually says his vows, locking in his part of this cursed deal. Then all eyes turn to Stephanie. The words are right there on the tip of her tongue. Just 2 little words to surrender her entire future. Quick life lesson here. When your back is completely against the wall, that is exactly when you find out what you are really made of. Will she just fold?
Stick with me, because this is where the plot goes totally off the rails.
Instead of surrendering, Stephanie hits Ruben with a quick apology, hikes up that expensive wedding dress, and just books it. Down the aisle, absolute pandemonium breaks out. The Don is screaming, the Mafia guests are losing their minds, and the suited goons scramble. But our girl has that adrenaline buff and bursts right out the church doors into the sunlight. She has zero plan, but she refuses to be a pawn in her father's sick game. But reality check, she only makes it to the street before thick hands lock onto her. It is Marco the traitor. She is screaming at him to let her drop. Life lesson for you all. Running from your massive problems only works if you actually remember arrange a solid getaway car first. Stephanie is putting up the fight of her life, clawing and kicking like an absolute wildcat. But Marco is basically a human tank, and he pins her against a parked car in seconds. She is screaming that she hates all of them, and Marco hates it. Suddenly, 6 heavy hitters surround her like she is a national security threat. Then Adriano, who strolls out of the church. He is completely calm, adjusting his cuffs like he didn't just ruin his daughter's life. He coldly orders his goons to lock her in her room until he figures out her punishment. They literally throw her kicking into the back seat. As the door slams, she sees Ruben just standing on the church steps, watching her get taken. The lesson? Sometimes the people who claim to have your back will just stand by and watch you fall. Brutal. Ruben didn't lift a single finger to save her. In that moment, a sickening realization hit Stephanie. He knew the escape would fail, and he just let her take the fall. Fast forward, and she is locked in her high-end prison of a bedroom. She aggressively rips off that wedding dress and launches a heavy lamp right into the wall. Shattered glass everywhere. She goes on an absolute rampage, destroying the mirrors, the chairs, and the floral arrangements until the room looks like a war zone. Finally, her energy crashes, and she just collapses on the floor in tears. Hours tick by until the room goes pitch black. Then the locked door suddenly clicks open. A simple life lesson we can learn here. Throwing a massive tantrum might feel amazing in the moment, but you are still stuck in the same cage. Stephanie looks up from the wreckage, expecting the Don or traitor Marco, but no, it is Ruben standing in the doorway, She instantly tells him to kick rocks, but he casually steps in and locks the door. The tension here is insane. Her voice cracks as she accuses him of knowing the heist was doomed from the start. Ruben puts on his best poker face and admits he didn't know for sure,
but he heavily suspected that they were walking into a trap. And why didn't he warn his partner in crime? Because he needed a genuine, raw panic to sell the performance.
He needed her father to firmly believe he had crushed them. Ruben crouches down in front of her, totally calm. Here is a life lesson for the chat. Honesty is a great policy, but sometimes keeping a secret is the only way to pull off the ultimate con. Ruben drops the hearted line, telling her the game is still on. Stephanie is totally defeated, whining that her dad has the flash drive and all the evidence. But hold on, guys. Here is the massive plot twist. Ruben smirks, reaches into his pocket, and pulls out an identical flash drive.
The one Adriano confiscated, a complete decoy.
Ruben knew the boss was sweating them, so he let him steal the dummy drive. 3 hours ago, this absolute madman uploaded the real files to the FBI, Interpol, and every major news network on the planet. By morning, both of their elite Mafia families are going down in flames. Life lesson time. Never put all your eggs in one basket and always keep a backup drive hidden. The sheer genius of keeping her in the darks, the meltdown looked totally real, is just peak cinema. Ruben looks her right in the eye and apologizes for the cruelty, but explains that if she had known it was a setup, her father's eagle eyes would have caught her acting. Her brain is doing backflips right now. They actually pulled it off.
The mighty Don is about to lose his entire criminal. Stephanie. He stares at Ruben before bursting into this broken,
hysterical laughter. She calls them both insane, and Ruben just shrugs and agrees. She realizes they might get off for this, but Ruben pulls her up and vows they are not dying tonight. He grabs her face, fully committing to facing the wrath of the underworld together. You noted, people, here is the life. A shared enemy is the ultimate relationship bonding tool. You really find out who has your back when the metaphorical sirens start wailing. You and I are going to love next part. Seeing the raw, desperate hope in his eyes, Stephanie whispers okay, and since their world is practically exploding anyway, she pulls him in for a gritty, defiant kiss. It is the ultimate point of no return. The mob war triggered, and these two are standing right at ground zero. But the romance is instantly cut short when heavy footsteps started echoing down the hallway outside. Ruben immediately snaps back into survival mode. He tells her they need to move right now, dragging her straight toward the massive bedroom window. He asks if she can climb, and she just stares down at the terrifying 3-story drop to the stone garden below. Life lesson, guys. Always check for a fire escape. You declare a full war on a ruthless mafia boss. Stephanie looks at him like he has lost his mind, pointing out she is going to snap her neck on the way down. Ruben is totally unfazed, already prying the huge window open and examining a sketchy wooden trellis covered in dead ivy. He claims it will probably hold their weight. Probably. Stephanie is absolutely horrified. But what other choice does she have? Those heavy boots in the hallway are multiplying.
It is a full hit squad, and her father definitely knows Ruben sneaked in.
They have maybe 2 minutes before the goons turn that door into splinters. She stares at the barricaded door, glances back at the lethal drop, and finally just says, "Let's go." A very real-life lesson right here. When the choices are certain doom or a 50-50 chance at survival, you take the risky jump every single time. Ruben wastes zero time, swinging his leg over the edge and twisting the fragile wooden trellis. It gives a terrifying creak, but holds him. He locks eyes with her and signals that it is her turn. Stephanie kicks off her fancy heels, grabs the shredded remains of her designer dress, and bravely scales the window ledge. The icy night air smacks her in the face as her hands grip the splintering wood. She starts sliding down, her bare feet slipping dangerously against the brick wall. Suddenly, massive banging erupts from the bedroom door above them. The hitmen are trying to breach. Ruben aggressively hisses at her to speed it up. Her entire body is vibrating with sheer panic, and the ancient wood starts groaning loudly. Lesson here: always wear practical shoes, because you never know when you must flee a compound. We're about to uncover what really went down in this escape. Ruben tells her the golden rule of heights. Do not look down. Naturally, she immediately looks down. They are still dangling 15 feet in the air. Above them, a huge crash echoes out as the bedroom door is totally demolished. The goons yell to check the window. Panicking, Stephanie's bare foot slips right off the wood. She is inches from disaster, scraping at the splinters until Ruben grabs her ankle from below to steady her. But then, disaster strikes. The entire trellis just detaches from the wall. They plummet the last few feet, smashing directly into the hard dirt. Stephanie's shoulder takes a brutal hit, but Ruben rolls like an action star, yanks her up, and yells at her to sprint. Life lesson: gravity really does not care about your dramatic escape plan. This is pure survival mode now. They are sprinting across the estate, dodging through the pristine gardens. Stephanie is leaving a trail of blood from her bare feet, her wedding dress looking like it went through a shredder. Behind them it is pure chaos, shouting, goons, and the terrifying sound of loaded guns clicking in the dark. A flashlight beam sweeps across the yard, but Ruben yanks her violently into the thick hedges. They are getting sliced up by thorns, but they burst out onto a hidden back road. And boom, there is the getaway car. Engine purring, lights completely killed. Ruben tosses her into the passenger seat, dives behind the wheels, and floors the gas pedal before his door is even shut. Life lesson for this wild ride: always leave the getaway car running, because every single second counts when an angry mob is right on your tail.
Look at this, guys. You and I are going to unpack this absolute train wreck together. Ruben slams the gas, peeling out with the tires, literally screaming for mercy. Stephanie turns around.
Heart pounding. The estate goons are pouring out like ants. One of them actually raises a gun. Ruben yells at her to duck, and boom! The back window completely shatters. Glass flies everywhere. Stephanie covers her head, ears absolutely ringing. Ruben tips on the corner at 50 miles per hour, leaving the estate in the dust. The life lesson here, folks, of pick your family carefully, or at least have a good getaway driver. Stephanie brushes the glass off, totally shell-shocked, asking what just happened. Ruben just grips the wheel. That was her own father's security squad trying to take them out. Stephanie is literally losing her mind. Ruben is like, yeah, welcome to my chaotic world, sweetheart. And what does Stephanie do? She's not a happy laugh, but that unhinged, broken, absolute villain origin story laugh. She is fully convinced they are going to die. But Ruben has zero chill and absolute confidence. He tells her, not tonight. He actually smiles at her, completely unbothered by the fact they are in a high-speed Mafia chase. We are not dying, and he says we are just getting started. They drive for a solid hour, pulling every evasive maneuver in the book. Lesson of the day, little paranoia keeps you alive. Double back, hit the side streets, and finally pull into some boring, grey concrete parking garage in Brooklyn, the perfect spot to vanish. Stephanie asks where they are. Ruben drops the ultimate mobster flex. It is his personal safe house. No one knows about this place, he says. Not his Mafia family, not her ruthless father. It is totally off the grid. They hike up to the 3rd floor, and Ruben unlocks a door. The apartment is bare bones. A sad couch, a table, a bed. It literally screams fugitive aesthetic. The life lesson here: always keep a secret stash, because you never know when your life will explode. Stephanie stands in the middle of the room, realizing she looks like an absolute disaster. Her designer dress is shredded. Her feet are bleeding. Her flawless hair is completely ruined. She has gone from Mafia princess to public enemy number 1. Ruben points to the bathroom, telling her to clean up. Ruben tells her to grab some old clothes, and Stephanie locks herself in the bathroom. She looks in the mirror, and guys, it is rough. Smudged makeup, a nasty cut on her face, fresh bruises. She looks like she just crawled out of a war zone. And honestly, she kind of did. She rips off that ruined wedding dress and jumps in the shower. The water is absolutely scalding, but she does not even care. She stands there letting it burn away the mob drama until the water runs clear. Life lesson: sometimes you just have to wash the toxic people out of your life, literally and figuratively. When she finally steps out, wrapped in a towel, Ruben chill on that sad little couch, scrolling through his phone, like he did not just declare war on the entire criminal underworld. Ruben looks up as she walks out in his oversized clothes. He hands her his phone. Stephanie grabs it, and her stomach completely drops. The headline is literal insanity. The feds are raiding the biggest crime families across New York and Europe. She scrolls down and sees the chaos. Her father's pristine office raided. Ruben's estate in Rome swarming with agents. She cannot believe it actually worked. About an hour ago, she uploaded all the receipts, financial records via shady texts, the whole 9 yards. The feds did not waste a single second. Here is the lesson, guys. Always keep the receipts, because the truth is the ultimate weapon. Ruben walks over to the window, staring at the city lights like an absolute boss who just flipped the board on the entire criminal empire. By tomorrow, their toxic families will be plastered all over the news and locked up by next week. Stephanie is literally shaking. Her father is probably in cuffs right now. She asks about Ruben's family, and his voice goes ice cold. His dad, his uncle, his cousin.
Everyone is going down. It's her.
With the ultimate question, does she regret it? Stephanie thinks about the insane life she was born into, and the trapdoors she tried to escape. She looks him dead in the eyes and says no. She does not regret a single thing. Ruben agrees. Neither does he. In this empty apartment, 2 runaways who just nuked their entire lives, and honestly, it feels completely peaceful. The plot twist.
You and I both knew this peace would not last. Ruben's phone rings and his face turns to stone. It is his father. Stephanie begs him not to pick up, but Ruben has to face the music.
He slaps that thing on speaker. His dad's voice comes through, cold and terrifying. The boss asks if Ruben understands the chaos he caused. Ruben does not blink. He says yes. His dad accuses him of destroying the empire. Ruben flips the script. He tells his dad he destroyed it himself. Ruben just exposed the truth and truth. Now he is free. A heavy silence follows. Then the boss drops the hammer. He asks Ruben if he thinks he can hide from him. Ruben, absolute madman, says he is not even trying to hide. Life lesson: never let a monster think you are scared. The boss promises to hunt Ruben down and make him regret breathing. Ruben's response: you can try, goes dead. Absolute chills, guys. Ruben, drops the phone, his hands visibly shaking. The adrenaline dump is real. Stephanie grabs his hand and asks if he is okay. He says no, looking completely wrecked, but he says he will be. Stephanie corrects him, dropping the ultimate ride or die energy. We will be. Ruben manages a tiny smile. Yeah, we will be. Makes a solid partner, makes the scariest moment survivable. Nobody is sleeping tonight. They camp out on the couch, glued to his laptop as the news goes nuclear. The raids, the files. Stephanie literally watches her get dragged out of his mansion in handcuffs. His face totally blank. Stephanie sees her mom crying on screen, but her brother Luca is nowhere in sight. She prays he got away. Meanwhile, Ruben's family is an absolute circus. His dad screams at the press. His uncle tries to run, and his cousin throws hands with the feds until he gets tasered. Beautiful, terrible chaos. But then, a news ticker freezes Stephanie's blood. The feds are actively looking for Stephanie and Ruben as key witnesses. They are wanted. Ruben shuts the laptop. They are not wanted. They are needed. The feds need them to testify. Life lesson. The system only cares about what you can do for them. He asks her the ultimate question. Does she want to get on the stand and bury her father? She thinks about everything he forced her to become. She does not hesitate. Yes, she says. She wants to turn him down, and Ruben is fully on board. Then we will, he says, pacing to the window. He is playing chess here. They cannot do it yet. First, they need to completely drop off the map. Even with the bosses behind bars, these syndicates have insane loyalty. Hitman will be coming. Stephanie instantly thinks of Marco, feeling sick to her stomach. She hopes Marco would not cross that line, but Ruben shuts that down. Marco betrayed him once. He will do it again if the boss gives the order. Ruben looks at her with brutal honesty. They cannot trust a single soul right now. Not her family. Not his chips. Stephanie asks who is left to trust. It is a crazy answer, but she takes his hand anyway. Stick with me, because this is where the survival game starts. The next morning, they bounce from Brooklyn. Ruben had a massive stack of cash hidden in the apartment, enough to keep them ghosting for weeks. They buy a beat-up ride from a shady guy who asks 0 questions, pay in hundreds, and drive west. No destination, no grand plan, just pure survival. They pull over at a grimy diner in Pennsylvania. Stephanie orders pancakes she is way too anxious to touch. Ruben is sitting there casually reading an abandoned newspaper. She asks for the latest tea. He folds the paper like a boss and drops the news. Both of their fathers are getting arraigned tomorrow, and both are pleading not guilty. The absolute audacity. The lesson here. Powerful men will lie until their very last breath. Stephanie rolls her eyes. Of course, those snakes are pleading not guilty. The feds are desperate for them to take the stand. Stephanie stirs her coffee and asks what happens if they just ghost the trial. Ruben does not sugarcoat it. They become literal fugitives. And if they do show up, they become walking targets for the mob. Stephanie lets out a bitter laugh. So basically, they are screwed either way. Yep, pretty much. They sit in silence while the diner buzzes with normal people living normal lives. Stephanie watches a waitress smiling, pouring coffee. She wonders what that piece actually feels like. Then, out of nowhere, she apologizes for dragging him into this mess. Lesson here, survivor's guilt is heavy baggage, but Ruben is not having it. He chose this path with his eyes wide open. Let us look at this piece by piece, shall we? Ruben tells her if they had not met, he would still be a Mafia enforcer, following orders. He reaches across the table and grabs her hand. He tells her she did not ruin his life. She saved it. She scoffs, saying she does not feel like a savior. Ruben smiles, good, because she is not. She is just a person trying to survive, same as him. He promises they will survive this together. Stephanie desperately wants to believe him, but right then, reality kicks the door down. The diner door swings open, and 3 massive armed goons walk in. They scan the room like human radar. Stephanie's heart stops. Ruben freezes. She whispers, asking if it is them. Yeah. One of the hitmen locks eyes with them. The hunt is officially on. Life lesson. Never let your guard down when the mob is out for blood. Ruben is a total pro, okay? His hand instantly slips to his jacket. He whispers back door. On 3, the main goon is stomping right toward their booth. 1, 2. Stephanie is having a full-blown panic attack, and at 3, they absolutely bolt. Ruben practically rips her out of the booth, tossing cash on the table because even on the run, we pay our bills. They go crashing through the kitchen, dodging flying pans and a totally confused cook. They smash through the back exit into this grimy alley. Their ride is 2 whole streets away, which is terrible planning. Life lesson, always park near the exit. Ruben yanks her to the left. They are hurdling fences, sprinting across asphalt, lungs on fire. And then the worst sound ever, heavy gunshots ripping through the alley. Ruben drags her down behind a rusted dumpster. She is freaking out, asking who sent these guys. Her ruthless mob boss dad? His old syndicate? Stick with me, guys, because this is where it gets wild. The hitmen are fanning out, closing in fast. Stephanie whispers they are completely trapped. But here comes the epic twist, bro. Ruben looks at her, stone cold, and pulls a massive gun out of his waistband. Stephanie is absolutely shook. She asks why he hid it. He drops the saddest line. He didn't want her to know he was a monster. Quick life lesson. Hiding your dark side never helps when bullets start flying. He racks the slide, checks his ammo, and tells her that when he moves, she needs to run for the car and never look back. Stephanie is crying, refusing to leave him behind, but Ruben is not hearing it. He grabs, pulling her into this incredibly desperate kiss, drops an I love you straight to business. Without missing a beat, he pops up and starts blasting. Boom. The first goon takes a hit to the shoulder. Another drops with a shot to the leg. Ruben takes off sprinting the other way, pulling all the heat so she can escape. Stephanie runs like an absolute track star. Life lesson here. When someone buys you time with their life, do not waste it a single second. She finally reaches the car, trembling violently as she jams the key in the ignition. The engine roars, and right as she checks the mirror, she sees Ruben limping toward her, completely covered in blood. The remaining hitmen are already regrouping in the distance. Stephanie kicks the passenger door wide open, screaming at him to get in. Ruben literally dives into the seat, and she floors the pedal before he can even shut the door. They peel out of that lot, tires squealing like crazy, and hit the highway doing massive speeds. Only when they are miles away does she finally pull over. Ruben is gasping for air, clutching his side while thick blood pours right through his fingers. He tries to play the tough guy card, claiming he is fine. Here is a life lesson, guys. Never trust a man who says he is fine while bleeding out. She forces his hand away, revealing a nasty, brutal gash across his ribs. She demands a hospital, but he flat out refuses, knowing the car will track them. Ruben is barely conscious, just telling her to keep driving. Anywhere. It doesn't matter as long as they stay a moving target. Stephanie merges back onto the dark highway, hands shaking violently on the steering wheel. She has zero plan and zero destination. About an hour later, they spot the sketchiest motel imaginable, peeling paint, flickering neon sign, total horror movie vibes. She pays in straight to cash to stay off the grid and drags Ruben into the room. He faceplants onto the mattress, looking like a complete ghost. She lifts his ruined shirt, and man, that wound is gnarly. It desperately needs stitches. Ruben throws out a weak, walk joke asking if she knows how to sew. She says, not on people. Life lesson. Survival means learning new skills fast, whether you want to or not. Stephanie rummages through the sketchy bathroom and actually finds a basic first aid kit. She cleans the wound usually while Ruben literally bites down on a towel to keep from screaming his lungs out. With trembling hands, she threads a needle and goes to work. 20 agonizing minutes later, they are both drenched in sweat. She cuts the thread and tells him it is done. Ruben, ever the sarcastic as Mob tells her she is absolutely terrible at sewing. She hits him back with a dry, you are welcome. They share a laugh that instantly turns into a wince of pain. She sits on the edge of the bed, whispering that he saved her life today. But bro, he looks at her and says she saved his fist back in Barcelona. Life lesson. True loyalty is a massive debt you carry in your soul. Ruben gets completely real with her. His eyes go super soft, and he confesses that he was totally dead inside before she came along. He was just a weapon for the syndicate, going through the motions. But she sparked something in him. Stephanie is tearing up now. She completely breaks down, admitting she has no idea how to live like this, the constant running, the dodging bullets, the endless survival mode. She is just so exhausted from being terrified every single second. Ruben grabs her hand and admits he is tired too. But here is the ultimate life lesson, guys. Giving up is always worse than the struggle. He pulls her close on that cheap mattress, telling her that if they stop fighting now, the cartel wins. And he is absolutely not going to let that happen to them. She closes her eyes and leans into his chest, super careful not to bump his fresh stitches. She asks the million-dollar question, what if they actually don't survive this? Ruben drops a hard truth. Then at least they go down swinging. Not exactly a warm and fuzzy thought, but it is all they have left. They fall asleep in that dingy room, two broke people hoping tomorrow brings a miracle. Spoiler alert, it absolutely does not. Life, never let your guard down just because the sun comes up. First thing the next morning, Stephanie gets blasted awake by the sound of wailing sirens. She bolts up, peers the cheap blinds, and her heart drops right into her stomach. 4 police cruisers are swarming the motel parking lot. She frantically shakes Ruben awake to sound the alarm. Even with a hole in his side, Ruben is up in an instant like a machine. He grabs his peas, sneaks a look through the curtains, and immediately analyzes the threat. He tells her the cops aren't here for them. They aren't swarming the perimeter. They are focused on the front office. Probably just some random motel drama. Still, they agree it is time to bounce immediately. They grab their meager stash, slip out the back, and slide into their car, driving off nice and slow so they don't look suspicious. Life lessons. When the heat is on, play it totally cool. But just 2 blocks down the road, Stephanie's phone lights up. Unknown caller. Ruben warns her not to pick up, but she ignores him and answers anyway. A voice on the other end sends chills right down her spine. It is Marco. Her blood completely freezes. Marco, the top enforcer, tells her she has made a massive mess with the feds, and her mob boss father is seriously angry. She acts tough, saying she doesn't care, but Marco warns her that Dad can reach her even from behind bars. He asks about Ruben and she snaps back. Let's pause and look at this together, shall we? Half the Mafia wants her dead for her betrayal, and the other half wants to capture her for leverage. She is totally trapped. Marco pitches a crazy idea: surrender to the feds, testify against her dad and get witness protection. But she just sants it down hard. Life lesson: never trust the people who built your cage to suddenly set you free. She knows the federal agents are just as shady as the hitman currently hunting them. Marco tells her to trust him instead, and she just laughs this incredibly bitter, sarcastic laugh. Why on earth would she trust this main guy? Then Marco drops absolute nuke of a revelation. He is the only reason she is still breathing. He knew exactly where she was last night and chose not to send the hit squad. When she asks why he spared her, his voice cracks. He tells her she reminds him of his own daughter, who died in the crossfire of a brutal mob war. He has been protecting Stephanie as a twisted way of finding redemption. Like less, the most dangerous people usually carry the deepest regrets. He tells her the feds want a face-to-face meeting tomorrow at a neutral spot, giving her one final chance to end this total nightmare once and for all. Marco tells her the feds want both her and Ruben at the meeting. They will trade full protection for her testimony against her father's criminal empire. If they bail, they will be running forever until someone finally puts a bullet in them. He texts the coordinates and hangs up, leaving the choice in her hands. She drops the phone, hands shaking uncontrollably. Ruben asks what the deal is, and she lays it all out. Neither of them trusts Marco for a single second, but let us be real here. Life lesson: sometimes your only choices are bad, and slightly less bad. Ruben's jaw clenches. He says they are completely out of place, so they will go to the meeting, hear the feds out, and make the call. Stephanie nods, but deep down, she knows tomorrow is the absolute point of no return. This mob war is coming to an end, and nobody knows who is making it out alive. The meeting is set for high noon at a federal spot in Lower Manhattan. Marco promised it was safe, but Stephanie stopped believing in fairy tales a long time ago. They post up at a diner nearby, staring at coffees they are too anxious to drink. Ruben is moving like a zombie, his stitches pulling with every breath. Stephanie is scanning every single face on the street. You and I both know the tension is absolutely unreal right now. Ruben tries to offer her an out, suggesting they just change their names and vanish forever, but here is the life lesson. You can never outrun your own shadow. She sets her cup down and refuses to spend the rest of her life looking over her shoulder. She is done running. Ruben looks her dead in the eye, taking in her face. You have changed, he tells her, and definitely not for the better. But listen up, guys, but you and I are going to unpack this insane drama together. Stephanie is absolutely locked in. She grabs his hand right across the table. A month ago, she would have folded like a cheap lawn chair, but now she has him. Life lesson right there. Having a real one in your corner literally upgrades your mindset. Boom, 11:45 hits, and they march straight to this massive, depressing, gray, concrete federal building. Total fortress vibes. Metal detectors buzzing, armed guards packed to the teeth with gear, and waiting in the lobby. Marco, bro, looks absolutely cooked. Suit completely wrecked, massive dark circles. Marco looks like he just won the lottery seeing them.
He actually didn't think they would show up. They'll hop in the elevator, heading straight up to the 6th floor to meet the big bosses.
We are talking the FBI, the Organized Crime Task Force, the absolute heavy hitters. But here is the massive plot twist of the century. Marco drops the bomb. Luca is already upstairs. Her little brother has been spilling all the tea to the feds since yesterday. Listen, quick life lesson for you. Sometimes the people you think need the most protecting are actually the ones stepping up to the plate. Stephanie's brain completely short circuits. She is terrified, but so intensely proud. They step off the elevator into this super sterile glass wall hallway, ready to face the music. Marco leads them all the way down to the very last room. Inside, the vibe is super heavy. Suits everywhere, serious agents, laptops open. But all Stephanie sees is Luca, sitting at the far end of the table, looking totally out of his depth. The second she walks in, the room freezes. Then Luca just bolts across the floor and crushes her in a hug. He literally thought she was dead, guys.
Coaster. This tomorrow is not promised in the Mafia world.
Luca pulls back, looks right at Ruben, and thanks him for keeping her alive. But Ruben is an absolute boss. He shuts that down fast. He tells the entire room she saved herself. He just tried not to get in her way. One of the Fed suits clears his throat, completely destroying the emotional moment. It is Special Agent Chen, rolling deep with another agent and a hotshot prosecutor named Wallace. Luca is clinging to Stephanie like his love life literally depends on it. Now, get a load of this. Chen looks them dead in the eye and drops the absolute hammer. He says they finally have all the receipts, the files they stole, the statements. Everything is fully lined up to put both of their mafia bosses, their own fathers, behind bars for good. The ultimate family betrayal. Here is a simple life lesson. Toxic family members do not get a free pass just because blood. Stephanie does not even flinch. She just stares straight at the feds and says, "Lock them up," cold as absolute ice. But you and I both know the FBI never does anything for free. You might be wondering the same thing I did here. Folks, Chen hits them with the absolute catch. They need a Stephanie, Ian, and Ruben to actually take the stand and testify. They want the jury to see the human wreckage these mafia families leave behind. Ruben immediately starts talking demands. We are talking witness protection, brand new names, money to disappear forever. This is where Wallace, the Ice Queen prosecutor, jumps in. She promises they will be safe. But Stephanie asks the real question, for how long? Life lesson time. Do not trust a shiny promise without reading the fine print. Wallace straight up admits nothing is forever, but says the mob families will totally fracture and fall apart. Wallace claims the mafia families will be way too busy tearing each other apart to ever hunt them down. Pure vendetta chaos, right? Ruben calls it exactly what it is, a massive gamble. But Wallace claps back, basically saying it is either this or they lame lives they spend the rest of their lives looking over their shoulders. And what about the kid? Luca isn't her age, so he gets protective custody until he turns 18. Chen promises they will take care of him, but Stephanie is completely out of patience. She tells him his word is absolute garbage to her right now. Huge life lesson here, folks. Respect is earned through consistent actions, not cheap talk in a fancy suit. She looks over at Ruben, and they share this intense look, desperately hoping this crazy plan works. Ruben steps up and tells the feds they need a minute to themselves. They step out into the hallway, leaving the kid with the agents, and who is chilling by the wall, casually smoking right under a huge no smoking sign. Marco, bro literally does not care anymore about the rules. Stephanie is completely freaking out, swearing this whole setup is a massive trap. But Marco takes a drag on the wildest plot twist yet. He tells her it's not a trap because he is the one who set the whole thing up. You guys, he has been feeding the feds inside intel for 3 entire months. He wasn't deep undercover. He was literally playing both sides. Life lesson. Sometimes the quietest people in the room are playing the biggest game. The stolen files just sped up the clock. Marco crushes his cigarette under his shoe and spills the rest of the crazy tea. He says her dad was totally losing his grip, getting insanely reckless. It was only a matter of time before the boss got himself and his entire crew clipped. So Marco made the ultimate boss move. He flipped on the family to save the few people who actually deserved the shot at life. That totally includes Stephanie. She is absolutely furious, demanding to know why he kept her in the dark. But Marco drops hard facts. If the mob boss found out she knew, she would have been taken out instantly. Simple life lesson. Sometimes people lie to you because the truth is too heavy for you to carry safely. He was acting as her personal shield this whole time, even during the Barcelona madness. Marco tells her straight up if he hadn't played the bad guy back in Barcelona, her father's actual hitman would have shown up, and it would have been a complete bloodbath. Ruben finally speaks up and asks what happens to Marco now. Marco just shrugs it off. He is heading into the witness protection program too. New name, new city, wiping the slate completely clean. Stephanie is so stunned she actually pulls him into a massive hug. The tough Mafia enforcer completely freezes before, awkwardly, hugging her back. Life lesson. Holding on to grudges is totally pointless when someone is literally risking their life for you. But Marco warns her the game is definitely not over yet. They march back into the room, and Stephanie tells the feds they are officially in. The feds tell them the huge trial kicks off in just 6 weeks. Ruben is shocked because that is insane speed for the justice system. But here is the thing. The Mafia bosses are actually trying to stall the clock, hoping key evidence magically disappears. The feds are absolutely not playing that game. Wallace pulls out the paperwork and says they will be stashed in a safe house, but completely separated for security. Immediately, Stephanie shuts that garbage down. She looks right at this high-powered lawyer and flat out refuses. She demands they stay together or the feds get absolutely zero testimony. The life lesson here is crucial. Never let the system push you around when you hold the cards. What is fuming, but Chen knows they are trapped and finally caves. Stick with me, guys, because this is where the actual nightmare starts. Wallace is absolutely furious, but she lays down the strict law. No phones, vouchers, zero internet access, absolutely no slipping up. If they break a single rule, they get tossed out to the mob. No second chances. The next 6 weeks are an absolute blur of endless questioning. Stephanie has to tell her traumatic stories so many times it stops feeling real. The feds pick apart Barcelona, the crazy escape at every single drop of the vendetta. Ruben gets dragged through the exact same mud. They are treated like pieces of evidence, not actual human beings. Life lesson. The legal system does not care about your feelings. It only cares about results. They get tossed into this ultra-depressing safe house in Jersey. The safe house has sponsors but has absolutely zero personality. Just chain link fences, heavy security cameras, and pure boredom. But honestly, it is the very first time they can just exist without running. When the agents finally leave for the night, Stephanie and Ruben just crash on the couch. Sometimes they do not even talk. Ruben puts on these ancient black and white movies from the 1940s, and Stephanie just passes out on his shoulder. It is practically nothing, but to them, it is everything. Simple life lesson, guys. Peace and quiet with the right person is worth way more than $1 billion of mob money. But the trauma is still lurking. 3 weeks into lockdown, Stephanie wakes up totally campaigning from a brutal nightmare about her dad. Ruben wraps her up instantly and tells her absolutely nobody is getting to them. He promises he will fight off the entire underworld if he has to. Come with me on this one.
seeing what really goes down. Stephanie closes her eyes and finally lets herself believe him. Fast forward to a freezing February morning, and it is showtime.
The courthouse is completely locked down. We are talking rooftop snipers, barricades, marshals everywhere. They get smuggled through a side door and find Luca. The kid looks older now, hardened by the madness. Life lesson. Extreme situations force you to grow up way faster than you should. Agent Chen grabs them, and they walk in the gigantic courtroom. Sitting right there at the defense table are their Mafia fathers.
Guys, picture this. We are finally at the ultimate showdown. The courtroom is dead quiet. Steph looks at her Mafia boss dad. The guy looks like a straight-up skeleton now, but his eyes...
Still cold as ice, he is staring at her like she is just a glitch in his master plan. Meanwhile, Ruben's dad is vibrating with pure rage, white-knuckling the defense table. Let this be a lesson to all of us sometimes. The people who should protect you are the ones you need protection from. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, slams things into gear. Things fly by, and then the prosecution drops the hammer. They call Stephanie to the stand. She steps up, shaking like crazy but holding her ground. She slaps her hand on that Bible, swears to spill the absolute tea, and the entire room completely stops breathing. The prosecutor steps up to ask the million-dollar question. State your relationship to the absolute menace on trial. Then she drops the bomb, "He is my father." Then she completely unloads. She brings every single receipt. We are talking the shady deals in Barcelona, the secret files, and that insane backup plan to take out Ruben. She exposes the fake wedding, flexing how she jumped out a window and ran for her life. It just goes to show you can only summon someone before they completely turn the tables. She airs out all the dirty laundry, the bribes, the illegal shipments, and those hits framed as accidents. And her dad? This psycho just sits there like a stone statue. Zero emotion. Not a single blink, while his own flesh and blood dismantles his entire underground empire. When she finally wraps up, the lawyer asks the ultimate flex question. Do you fear your father? Stephanie locks with the Don and drops the hardest line of the century. I used to, but not anymore, because he do not own me. The courtroom completely loses its mind. The judge is furiously banging the gavel, screaming for order, and Stephanie steps down like an absolute boss. The lesson here, real power is knowing your worth and refusing to let toxic people control your life. Next up is Ruben, and his testimony is cold as ice. He spills every family secret with terrifying precision. Every sketchy alliance, every single backstab. His dad loses his mind, jumps up screaming that Ruben is a total coward. The judge shuts him down instantly, threatening to toss him out of the room right there. The vendetta drama is peaking. Ruben's dad sits down completely seething. Fast forward through 2 insane weeks of trial. Witness after witness, mountain of receipts after mountain of receipts. The jury only needs 4 hours to drop the hammer. Guilty on all counts for both bosses. Adriano stays looking like a frozen statue, but Antonio absolutely loses his mind, dropping curses until the marshals literally have to restrain him. Dinise holding Ruben's hand in the gallery, finally breathing for the first time in months. 2 weeks later comes the ultimate payback. Both of these Mafia kings get slapped with theirs 30 years in federal lockup with 0 chance of parole. It teaches you that karma always collects its debts eventually. Outside, paparazzi are swarming and screaming questions. But for Stephanie, the nightmare is officially cancelled. Cameras are flashing everywhere, but she is totally zoned out. Ruben is right beside her, Luca is on the other side, and Marco is already ghosting into his new identity. Listen, guys, this is where the story actually flips. Luca asks the game plan, and Stephanie says they are going to start over, somewhere completely off the grid. Agent Chen rolls up like a VIP and says their shiny new identities are locked in. They are being shipped to a quiet town in Oregon. Ruben says he has never been there. Stephanie just shrugs and says they will figure it out together. It really shows that stepping into the unknown is way better than staying in a toxic comfort zone. They walk down those courthouse steps, ignoring the wild reporters, leaving the absolute dumpster fire of their past behind them forever. For the very first time, cut to complete free. To Portland, Oregon. To chilling. It's a bright little 2-bedroom setup. No more mob mansions. Just thrifted furniture they actually chose themselves. Stephanie is whipping some coffee, watching the classic Portland rain. Ruben sneaks up and wraps his arms around her. That brutal scar on his ribs. It is just a faded white line now that she touches it sometimes just to remember how incredibly close they came to getting wiped off the map. Sometimes you have to lose all the fake luxury to find real peace in the simple things. He whispers a sweet good morning into her hair and asks if she slept okay. For once, she actually did. No hitman, no drama, just pure survival mode turned into an actual life. Ruben gives her a quick kiss, and suddenly Luca rolls into the kitchen like a zombie looking for cereal. This kid is about to start his senior year of high school. He is playing soccer, making actual friends, and talking about college instead of cartel hits. The whole squad is finally healing. Stephanie mentions her shift at the local bookstore and asks Ruben about his meeting downtown. Get this, the former Mafia enforcer is literally starting a completely legit consulting firm. No blood money, shady deals. It's small and slow, but it is 100% his own thing. She asks if he is nervous, and he admits he is terrified. She tells him that is a good thing because it means it actually matters. It proves that building an honest life from scratch is way more rewarding than inheriting a dirty empire. The three of them finish breakfast with 0 bodyguards breathing down their necks.
They are finally living that normal family aesthetic.
Later that day, Stephanie heads to her bookstore gig. The owner is this super chill woman in her 60s who never pries into her shady backstory, which is honestly the ultimate boss move. Sometimes the best way to help someone is just giving them a clean slate with 0 judgment. But hold up, the plot twist alarm almost goes off. Stephanie is stocking shelves when the door chimes. A tall guy in a dark coat steps inside, and her heart instantly plumbers her shoes. For one terrifying microsecond, she thinks the cartel tracked her down. She is bracing for absolute chaos, but the guy turns around and it is literally just some random hipster looking for a book. Major false alarm. She lets out a massive breath and goes back to work, but that trauma is still lurking. Check this out, arch guys, you do not just walk away from the Mafia without some mental scars. She still gets brutal nightmares about the fake wedding, and Ruben still wakes up terrified, convinced his dad's hitmen are at the door. But here is the massive win. Those panic attacks are actually fading. Healing is not a straight line. It takes a ton of time and patience. That night, they are chilling, making basic pasta and marinara. Nothing fancy. Just pure domestic bliss. Luca sets the table. They complain about the rain and just vibe. Afterwards, Stephanie and Ruben are snuggled on the couch under a blanket, watching the Portland city lights, totally soaking in the ordinary life they literally fought to the death to secure. Ruben asks the heaviest question ever, do you ever regret it? snitching on their families, running away, and starting from scratch. Stephanie thinks about all those millions of dollars, the luxury cars, and the fake safety they left behind. But she hits him with a stone-cold no. Not even a little bit. She tells him losing that dirty money was the best thing that ever happened, because they found something way more valuable. They found each other at the actual redemption to choose their own destiny. The ultimate. True wealth is not about the power you hold, but having the freedom to live your authentic truth. She says she would burn it all down again in a heartbeat. Ruben pulls her in close, completely agreeing. They survived the absolute worst gauntlet imaginable, and they finally won the game. They did not make it out without scars, but they are alive. Boom, 2-year time skip. They upgraded to a sick little bungalow in the Portland suburbs. It has a front porch, a yard, and Stephanie is out there hopelessly trying to grow a garden. But hey, it is 100% theirs. Luca already dipped to study engineering at the University of Washington, and he is calling every Sunday like a total good guy, hey? Stephanie is out here working at a non-profit, literally helping other people escape the Mafia. Using your darkest trauma to help others heal is the absolute best revenge you can get. Meanwhile, Ruben's legit business is popping off. He has actual employees and clients now. He traded his mob enforcer skills to become a ruthlessly efficient corporate boss. They are leveling up the right way, block by block. One evening, Stephanie pulls up to the house and sees Ruben waiting on the porch. The guy is holding a tiny velvet box, and her heart completely short-circuits. She asks what is going on, and Ruben is flashing this incredibly nervous smiles you never see on a former mob hitman. He looks at her and says, "I know we did the whole fake engagement thing for the cartel, but this time it is completely my choice." He pops the box open, and there is this super clean, simple gold ring. No flashy blood diamonds, just pure intention. He tells her there are no more shady deals. Just them. A healthy relationship is built on daily choices, not forced obligations. She is instantly crying, and he asks to marry him for real this time. She drops a massive yes without a second thought, and that ring fits like absolute magic. So there you have it, guys. 6 months later, they make it absolutely official at the local courthouse. Luca is right there, cheering them on. Marco is hiding out in Montana under a fake name, but still sends some epic flowers. Even Agent Chen drops a card telling them to stay safe. No massive Mafia reception, no VIP guest list, no fake strategic alliances. Just two badasses who literally crawled their way out for the criminal underworld, standing before a judge and choosing love over power. The grand finale lesson: no matter how rigged the game is, you can always rewrite your own ending. The judge gives the green light, and Stephanie says ruined like nothing else in the universe exists. After taking down two massive crime syndicates, they finally secured their own happily ever after. It is the ultimate victory. Boom. We hit a massive 5-year jump. Stephanie is standing in her own kitchen, watching the sunrise with coffee in hand. No more running from the mob. Just pure domestic life. Footsteps approach, and in walks an adorable 3-year-old girl dragging a stuffed rabbit. She has Ruben's dark hair and Stephanie's legendary stajamage. The little girl demands food, and Stephanie scoops her up. It proves that no matter how dark your past is, you can always build a brighter future. Then Ruben walks in, looking completely relaxed and happy. The former tough guy is now just a devoted dad. He kisses Stephanie on the temple and jokes around with the kid. They end up making pancakes together in the warm morning light, completely safe from the crazy underworld they left behind. Watching Ruben flip pancakes, Stephanie realizes she finally has what she never thought possible: real peace. Not just hiding from her Mafia family, but actually having a real home. She literally fought a whole syndicate for this life, and she won. The life lesson here is simple true happiness is always worth fighting for, but the story does not forget the fallen. Later that day, she drives out to Antiquaimta tree. She walks past the headstones and stops at one in the back. It belongs to Marco Santini, her old bodyguard and protector. He passed away a year ago from a sudden heart attack. The doctors claimed as weak and completely painless. Stephanie really hopes that is the truth, because if anyone deserved a peaceful exit after all that chaos, it was Marco. Stephanie lays down flowers and traces the letters on Marco's headstone. It is a heavy, emotional scene, guys. She starts talking to him, wishing he could have met her little girl. She jokes that her daughter is stubborn, fearless, and refuses to take no for an answer, exactly like her. It reminds us of a valuable life lesson. Never forget the loyal people who had your back when things were rough. The wind blows through the trees, and Stephanie whispers a final thank you for everything he did to keep her alive. After soaking in that bittersweet mix of grief and deep gratitude, she heads back to her car, far to that evening. The kid is completely knocked out asleep, and Stephanie and Ruben are just relaxing on their front porch together, watching the fireflies light up the yard. Out on the porch, things get deep. Ruben asks if she ever thinks about their mob boss fathers. Stephanie leans into him and admits she does, but barely anymore.
We get a massive piece of lore here. Stephanie's brutal dad got shanked in prison 2 years ago. He lived violently and went out the exact same way. When Stephanie heard the news,
she did not shed a single tear. It proves a hard life. Lesson toxic people lose their power over you once you finally walk away. Meanwhile, Ruben's dad is still rotting in a cell, bitter as ever. But that is his problem now. Stephanie then drops a huge question. What if they had never met at that club? Ruben does not hesitate. He says he would be absolutely miserable, trapped in a fake mafia life that he never even wanted to live. Ruben looks at her and delivers a legendary line. He tells Stephanie she saved him in every way a person could be saved. She fires back, saying he saved her too. They joke about being even, but Stephanie knows it is deeper. She kisses him, saying they have their whole lives to figure it out. The lesson here is that real love is built on mutual support and effort. They sit as the stars come out, and Stephanie Saiti reflects on her insane story. From standing at the altar in a forced mafia wedding, to chilling on a quiet porch in Portland with a family she chose, it is not perfect, but it is hers. For the first time ever, she is totally done running. Then we hit the epilogue, guys. Years down the line, her daughter finally starts asking the tough questions about their past. When her kid asks about the past, Stephanie keeps the Bruce DeBille Mafia gore out, but tells her enough. She tells her the epic story of a girl who ran from a toxic life, and the guy who helped her fight back. She explains the insane courage it takes to burn your old world down to start fresh. Here is the core life lesson of the whole series. Guys, true freedom is never free. It costs tears, blood, and sacrificing things you thought you needed. But it is totally worth it. Every single scar brought her to a life she actively chose. Instead of mafia empires, Stephanie chose a quiet house, a loyal partner, and a kid who will never know the shadow of the underworld.
This right here is the victory. It is way better than some flag court verdict or a faded news headline.
The real flex is not power, it is the simple miracle of waking up safe. Stephanie stands in her daughter's doorway, and all that heavy trauma finally melts into gratitude. A great lesson here is to always appreciate those who anchored you during the storm. She is grateful for Ruben, who stayed when running was easier. For Luca, who forgave the absolute bloat case she brought to his doorstep. And for Marco, who had protected her before she even saw the danger. Every crazy choice led her to this moment. She flicks off the light and walks down the mall to Ruben. He asks if the kid is finally asleep. When she just says, "Sis," he pulls her in close. They just stand there, holding each other in the peaceful, secure life they literally built out of the ashes of their dark old world. Look at this wrap-up, guys. Outside their doors, the world is still completely chaotic. People are still fighting their endless wars, and massive criminal empires are still rising and collapsing every single day, but none of that matters anymore. Inside that cozy little house on a quiet, tree-lined street, there is absolutely nothing but peace. Stephanie, the girl who started out as a literal prisoner to her father's toxic mafia empire, the girl who was forced into a sketchy underworld wedding she never even asked for, beat the odds. She fought tooth and nail for her happiness. The ultimate takeaway? You are the only one who can write your ending. She broke the chains, took back her identity, and now she is finally, completely, and irrevocably free. What an absolute masterpiece of a conclusion. One of the strongest lessons from Stephanie S.'s story is that personal freedom is not a luxury. It is a basic human need. Stephanie is born into wealth, power, and protection, but none of those things truly make her free. Her father controls where she lives, whom she meets, whom she marries, and even what future she is allowed to imagine. The wedding dress she wears becomes a symbol of imprisonment rather than happiness. This teaches us that a life chosen by others, even if it looks perfect from the outside, can feel empty and painful on the inside. Education should help people understand that every individual deserves to make meaningful choices about their own life. Parents may guide their children, but guidance becomes harmful when it turns into control. Stephanie attempt to escape to desire to discover herself outside of her family SS expectations. She wants a normal job, simple routines, and the freedom to breathe without fear. Her journey reminds us that young people should be allowed to grow, make mistakes, and build their own identity. The story also teaches that love, marriage, and family should never be forced. A relationship without choice becomes a cage, no matter how powerful or wealthy the families involved may be. Stephanie's refusal to accept a future arranged for business reasons sends an important message. Dignity begins when a person recognizes that their life belongs to them. The educational value here is clear. We must teach respect for autonomy, especially within families and communities. Real protection does not mean controlling someone else's future. Real protection means giving them the courage, support, and trust to choose their own path.